One of the things that you're seeing going on with Russia and all these countries is sanctions. Sanctions, sanctions, sanctions. And what they're not explaining on purpose is what this is really about. Because when you hear sanctions, you're supposed to think like, well, everything we see going on with cancel culture, right? The new strategy, make people go broke and lose their jobs like we saw at the outbreak. And somehow we have people that are okay with this. That used to be like the biggest no-no there was. You don't mess with, the way that somebody provides for their family. Not anymore, not with these liberal lunatics. They're okay with it until it happens to them, of course. And then, well, we'll see when crap hits the fan, so to speak. And these people are literally unarmed, unprotected, and unprepared for what's coming because they think everything's a giant joke and their government's here to protect them, when in reality they're not. But what they're doing is they're trying to tell you that sanctions are a way to stop war. That companies like Exxon, who are pulling their gas stations from Russia and costing themselves an estimated $4 billion. Do you ever think you'd hear something like that? Ever in your life? Think about that. That we're seeing companies, they're like, yeah, we'll take a $10 billion hit. So because we don't want to have a gas station in Russia. It has nothing to do with the poor people of Russia because we don't agree with Putin. We're going to lose all this money and we don't care. When did businesses start functioning this way? The whole purpose of a business was to have absolutely nothing to do with politics, to have absolutely nothing to do with anything other than making money, right? Well, now, because of the Great Reset, you're going to see all these businesses like Exxon, like Disney. What do you think they're doing? They're all lining themselves up to be destroyed, to be taken down in the public eye, to lose money. Because they're going to say, look, it's not just you, the guy at home who has a small business in his town or works from home. It's not just you that's hurting. Look, Exxon's hurting, Disney's hurting, all these corporations are hurting on purpose. And what comes from these sanctions is a war on the citizens, not a war on business. What would Russia actually care as far as Putin goes? You think he cares if there's an Exxon station in Russia or a McDonald's in Russia? He's probably thrilled that there's no McDonald's, but he's playing his part just like these corporations are playing their part, because all of these people who have been put in these positions as CEOs of these companies, and you go, how did this guy become the CEO of McDonald's? Well, nobody ever thinks about how these people become CEOs of these corporations because you don't know who they are. But they're all part of the brotherhood, and they all do as they're told, because when the brotherhood asks you to do, you do. They've been rewarded their whole lives with endless amounts of money, and they'll still have endless amounts of money when all this stuff hits, because they'll be in their underground bunkers where they're protected and safe. And then when the reset happens, they'll pretend like they're even with all of us, when in reality, they're not. They still will be filled with resources and money and everything else. But the real war is the war on the civilians. This is what's coming to America, and this is what's coming to other countries around the world. The governments are attacking the civilians by creating these sanctions. They are not hurting the government. They're like, we're killing their economy off. Oh, well, who does that hurt more? The government there or the civilians who can't get food or gas? It hurts the civilians more. And we're having this happen worldwide. This is what's coming to America. And what's ironic about it? Well, it's not ironic. It's truthful. Is that, look who just posted about why sanctions matter. It's the World Economic Forum. Wow, you'd almost think that they were the ones in control of all this stuff. Oh, wait. They are. And here they are talking about the sanctions imposed on Russia and why sanctions are important and we need sanctions. And of course, they forget to, really talk about how it's a war on the citizens because, well, Claus knows that, but he knows that the people out there will just listen to whatever his corporation and whatever Big Brother tells him.
Sanctions are essentially restrictions on economic flows. So we can think of capital flows, resource flows, trade flows, even data flows these days. Sanctions essentially work usually in kind of three stages. First you have a threat stage when you threaten somebody with sanctions. Unless you do what I say, I will apply sanctions. That's the first stage. The second stage is then the sort of a limited use of sanctions where you signal that you're serious, I will do this, and you apply certain sanctions on a target state. And then the third stage is what we could call perhaps economic warfare. will see that sanctions work when they are applied by a coalition of states, making it difficult for the target state to come around those sanctions. Or they often work better against democratic states than authoritarian states, because in authoritarian states, the leaders don't necessarily need to attend to the needs of the population so much. The Russian economy is now almost completely decoupled from the global economy. We see increasing, capital flight. We see, the GDP crashing down. This year we will see technological backwardness and so on and so forth. So it takes a heavy toll on the Russian economy. We already know that fertilizer exports is hitting global food production quite badly. We can expect certain restrictions on energy exports by Russia. We have Russia being quite central in critical mineral exports, and we can expect restrictions on certain critical minerals. And that will hit, for instance, car, aerospace, semiconductor manufacturers.
So they talk about sanctions ranging, travel bans, asset freezes, trade restrictions. This is all stuff done on the citizens. How it's done in phases, the guy was talking about, right? They just picked this guy, by the way, to interview. I mean, give you a break. And then what you see is chaos going on around Russia. The citizens who had nothing to do with this, this is your government's turning on the citizens. This is what I keep trying to tell everyone out there. The governments aren't working for the citizens. They're turning on the citizens. They're bankrupting the citizens. They're putting the citizens in the position for the Great Reset on purpose. That's exactly what Biden's doing here in America. This is being done on purpose. And this is being done in other countries as well. They're going to bankrupt everyone. They are going to take everything from everyone. And then they're eventually going to shut the grid down and starve everyone. And they're going to come in heroically to save the day with giving out rations. And people will just be thrilled that they can have rations, not realizing that they've set them up for this by creating a society of people who have no skill sets whatsoever, who don't know, who take food for granted, who take water for granted, who take everything for granted. And then when push comes to shove, these people will be foaming at the mouth when they can't get their... Just think about how many people won't be able to get medicines for mental health disorders. A lot of the people who cut off their Johnny Johns. Imagine them foaming at the mouth. They're already rabid up on their graph. Just imagine. It'll be frightening. But what you're seeing in Russia right here, which I'll show you, is exactly what you're going to see here in America very soon.
Everyday Russians are starting to feel the squeeze of international sanctions from a war that some don't support. It's hard to know exactly how many support it and how many don't. But now even the most basic groceries are hard to come by in that country. And that is something that everyone is noticing. Anna Stewart has that story.
People are fighting for sugar. The words of the woman filming this video in a Moscow supermarket. The shop worker asking people to stay calm and to stop fighting. In another video posted to Telegram, you can hear shouting as sugar just arrived doesn't even make it onto the shelf before shoppers grab it. Inflation has hit more than 14% in Russia, and economist Anders Asland expects it to reach 50% by the end of the year.
When the sanctions hit, everybody wanted to cash their rubles from the bank accounts as fast as possible, and then either get hard currency and or buy goods before the prices had increased.
According to official government statistics in Russia, certain goods have seen huge price increases. Compared to last year, sugar is 37% more expensive. The prices for bananas and tomatoes are up by around 50% and rises, albeit smaller, across a whole range of household staples. What you see here, empty shelves, is largely the result of panic buying. and some supermarkets have placed limits on how much customers can buy of certain products, like buckwheat, rice, diapers, and chicken. There's also the very real risk that some products may become harder to get. Many retailers have closed their doors as Western companies exit a country waging an illegal war. The world's biggest shipping companies will no longer carry non-essential cargo, and Western countries have also banned selling certain components to Russia.
Now, you might say, well, why would we see that in America? Because America's going to be going to war at some point soon with Russia. The predictive programming has been in place forever. And like I keep saying, Biden is doing his role, setting America up for war. And people are too busy in America to notice or care because this country's always been babied and coddled. So what is it that people seem to care about in America? Well, we have our leaders in Congress debating what a woman is. Yeah. They won't be debating it too much when they're dying of starvation soon enough and trying to figure out how to get water. And like I said, most of these imbeciles will turn to the ocean. They're like, let's go to the ocean and drink water. There's a big ocean. Did you guys hear that? Yeah, why didn't we think of that? And then they all just start drinking water and dropping dead because you can't drink seawater. But they won't know because they're so stupid. And that's not even a joke. It's realistic. I guarantee you that some of these idiots think you could drink ocean water. Yeah. And then they'll drink other sources of water that they don't realize is bacteria because they don't know how to clean the water or do anything whatsoever. Yeah, that'll be what occurs. But they're too busy right now talking about what a woman is, talking about what we should teach kids in school, the most perverse, disgusting garbage that these sick perverts want to push onto children because they have serious problems and need serious help, but they don't realize that because they're weak. This is what people care about here. So when crap hits the fan, they're going to be unprepared. The only ones that'll be prepared are the quote-unquote tinfoil hat wearers. And of course, these people will be rabid and turn against people like me and you. Why? Well, because we'll have resources. They already have been taught to hate us. And they'll think that they could come to our door and smash it down and take what we have. But little do they realize that the majority of tinfoil hat wearers are armed and ready and prepared to protect their families and their homes. But the sanctions, ladies and gentlemen, the sanctions are so necessary for war, right? We have them telling us that sanctions were a part of World War II. Well, we know rationing was a part. Sanctions? I don't recall the U.S. government during World War II going over and saying, hey, Hitler, we're going to shut down your local CVS. Boom. Do you? Hitler, we got news for you. Yeah, guess what we're doing? What's that? Well, we've decided that we're going to pull Johnny Rockets. All our Johnny Rockets from, yeah, and no more 7-Eleven, whatever was there. I don't have a clue, but you know what I mean. You think they were doing that? No, they weren't. No. But they'll tell you, they're like, yeah, this is a part of war sanctions. No, this is a part of war on citizens. The word sanctions, you might as well just call it imposing a war on the citizens because they're making it impossible for people to get food. You're making people go rabid because they're going to the store and they can't get what they need or want. You're freezing citizens' bank accounts because of their government, right? So just imagine what will occur here because of the imbeciles that have been put in office, not elected. And it's pretty obvious. Everybody knows that. I mean, that's what's scary about it is they're on to the fact that the elections are rigged, but they don't realize the entire thing is rigged, that no vote counts on either side. That Trump was there for a reason, now this guy's there for a reason. Deliberately put in place for this. So then we'll all point a finger at who? The Democrats, Biden. This has happened to us because we put in a senile grandfather who was corrupt, what is the other story? Hunter Biden's laptop. Oh, yeah. People buy into all of this stuff. That's all you hear the right talking about. Hunter Biden's laptop. Oh, I'm sure the guy was that stupid to bring a laptop signed into all of his accounts and leave it somewhere and never go to pick it up when his father is the vice president at one point, a senator, and now the president. He was like, yeah, probably not a good idea to leave my laptop. It has pictures of me doing crack on it. Yeah, probably not a good idea. A common human being would think about that. I mean, I don't have anything worthwhile on my laptop except all this stuff that I talk about. And all this stuff that I talk about, I wouldn't leave my laptop somewhere. Because I'd say, oh crap, they're going to think I'm like government or whatever. And I would think to myself, well, now they know who I am, even though they know already. But you get the point, right? I'm sure most of you would say the same thing. You'd be like, I don't have anything really worthwhile, but you might have some personal pictures or whatever. And you'd say, I don't want to leave it there. This guy, some weird guy at an Apple store. It's not even like the Apple store. It's some bootleg store. And this guy's leaving it there. He couldn't just buy a new laptop for $3,000, $2,000, $1,000, right? He couldn't just buy a new laptop. But this guy's making like millions of dollars through whatever they claim he's doing. It's just part of the show and the distraction. And then one of these days we're going to wake up and it's all going to go boom. Because you're going to hear the silence of the grid going down. And then you're going to see the effects of sanctions because Russia's going to impose sanctions here. And who's to say that some of these stores and all these places won't impose sanctions on America for how America responds to something? And who pays the price? You think Joe Biden pays the price? You think these senators pay the price? No, the citizens pay the price because this is war on the citizens of Russia, the citizens of Ukraine, the citizens soon to be of America and other countries. We just saw what happened to the citizens in Australia and Austria, New Zealand, the nonsense they put them through, literally locking them up where they had to climb out their windows to get out of quarantine so they can go eat something. People in America are still like, that won't happen here though. Oh yeah, it won't. We're the softest country that there is. The only thing we have going for us here that would make them somewhat nervous is the fact that there's half of a population that's smart enough to protect themselves and arm themselves from Big Brother. But these idiots out there, these crazy people are doing it because they want to go to schools and do all these things. No, we're protecting ourselves from Big Brother because Big Brother is about to go to war with its citizens here in America, just like all the governments around the world are doing to their citizens. So imposing sanctions is the new trendy way to go after civilians. And of course it comes from the World Economic Forum. They just randomly are talking about and explaining why sanctions, what they do and why they're needed. And people just hear it and they're like, yeah, that does make sense. This isn't how you go to war, okay? War actually involves the use of soldiers, right? I mean, that's what the soldiers are paid for, right? Oh, right, I forgot. The soldiers are actually in place, the military is in place to protect our own government from the civilians. That's what they're there for. Duh. All right, what was I thinking? Well, I was thinking that things actually made sense when in reality, they don't. And they're only going to get worse. Reminder, check out the website at callfornuprising.com. It's $2.99 a month. Check it out if you haven't. I want to thank the Patreons and thank all of you for your support. Get ready, folks, because the war on the civilians, it's already underway. Just a matter if people want to see it or not, or if they prefer to just argue about, well, what a woman is in this insane, insane time to be alive. And these people who are doing all this stuff, they're on the ground rolling around that they've created a society like this through social engineering that is so dumb. The same people who defend them, who hate people like us, who would go to the grave for these people, the elites are laughing at them. They don't even look at them as goyim. They look at them as lower than cattle because really they are. Because they don't have a brain cell in their heads. Pretty unfortunate, but we'll see when crap hits the fan what ends up happening to those people. Because Big Brother ain't going to be there to take care of them if they can survive the next wave that's coming.